Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Brews. I am your host, Commander Claw. This series is about 5 cards that I highly recommend for your new commander from the Aetherdrift spoiler set. And yes, if you do not know, this is Sab-Sunen Luxa Embodied. I'm not gonna lie. I really think they're recreating 90s cartoon characters in all the new commanders or the Aetherdrift set. For some reason, a giant frog makes me think of either Battletoads or the frog from Gullah Gullah Island. I think it was like, I forgot the name of the frog, but the frog from Gullah Gullah Island. Go ahead and hit that like button if you remember that show or it brings back those type of memories, either Battletoads or Gullah Gullah Island. It's like Binga Binga? Yeah, that's the name, Binga Binga. But anyway, moving on to the commander itself. This is Sab-Sunen Luxa Embodied. 3 green and a blue. Those are simic colors on a 6/6 body legendary creature God. Reach, trample, indestructible. Oh my god. It has Sab-Sunen can attack or block unless it has an even number of counters on it. 0 is even. So that means if you want to attack, it has to have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 counters on it to attack. So at the beginning of your first main phase, put a +1/+1 counter on Sab-Sunen. Then if it has an odd number of counters on it, draw 2 cards. So I look at this commander as you decide when you want to attack. You can put +1/+1 counters on at instant speed with triggers or other spells. So do not be afraid or feel like you are limited to, oh, my beginning of my first main phase. No, that is not the case with Simic colors if you never played Simic. But otherwise, this commander screams go trample, go Voltron, and take out your opponents. And if you go with this strategy, I always like to tell players never forget your extra turn spells because you'll need an extra turn to take out the other players in your pod. But without further ado, if you like the content so far and you want to stay tuned with myself, Commander Claw, go ahead and hit that notification button. But let me bring you some more cards, commanders, I should say, that go with +1/+1 counter themes. So we have Zimone, Paradox Sculptor for 2. Green and a blue, 1/4 body, legendary creature, human wizard. She says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. Okay, so we automatically throwing +1/+1 counters on creatures we control. That's good. That's good. That means all you need is another creature so she can boost them up. And also you can boost her up too. She has tap a green, tap a blue, and tap her. Double the number of each kind of counter on up to 2 target creatures and or artifacts you control. This can get out of control because there's more than just +1/+1 counters. There's first strike counters, there's lifelink counters, there's trample counters, there's charge counters that you put on your artifacts. So she doubles the number of each kind of counter on up to 2 target creatures or artifacts. Wow. Man. So she works for artifacts. She got artifact symmetry. I mean, she's like an auto inclusion this deck because once you start putting +1/+1 counters, you can double it and go Voltron or go heighten straight and tall with your commander here. Um, I should have put some artifact tokens or artifacts that use charge counters. That can be very beneficial. I need to note that energy counters do not work with this because energy counters go to players. Just saying. Moving on to the next commander that works well with Sab-Sunen. I got to admit, I love this card just because I cracked it in a booster pack and I didn't know it was worth $45. Something about cards when you get them in boosters, they give you a different feeling versus just buying the single of it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But it gets harder to buy packs because they are expensive. But anyway, Bristly Bill, Spine Sower for 1 and a green, 2/2 body, legendary creature, plant druid. He has landfall. Y'all already know landfall gets out of control because landfall says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Tap 3 and a 2 green, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. So he encourages you to go wide and also go tall again. Like if you already have 5 plus one counters on Sab-Sunen, and you double it. That's plus 10. It's already a 6/6. Come on, man. That's a 16/16 coming at a player. They're not going to like that. And also with Simic, you get to add counterspells in your deck. So you get to protect your commander often, or have the threat of protecting your commander often. Moving on to win cons. For you players that don't know, there are infect abilities that you can put on creatures and infect abilities that are in green. It's not just only in black. Uh, let's see here. Grafted exoskeleton. It is an equipment for 4. It says the equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has infect. It deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters and to players in the form of poison counters. A player only needs 10 poison counters to lose the game. That's going to be very easy if Sab-Sunen has trample, which you will be adding in this deck. Almost all simic creatures need some kind of trample because they go tall. Generally, they go tall and they will crush your opponents. It also says whenever Grafted Exoskeleton becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent. That would be very unfortunate to lose your commander that way. However, don't forget you can always put your commander in the graveyard, and if you have graveyard reanimation effects, bring it back to play or put it back in your hand. Not that hard. Why pay an extra 2 for commander tax? But in Simic, you probably have enough mana for commander tax. Anyway, equip 2 is the cost to equip Grafted Exoskeleton to Sab-Sunen. So, Simic Ascendancy. It is a win con here. It's not infect. It's just counters. So, Simic Ascendancy for green and a blue, this is a staple. It's an enchantment. Tap 1, tap blue, tap a green, put a +++ counter on target creature you control. Awesome. But whenever one or more +1/+ counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. Oh, I want y'all to think about that. When you put 5 +1/+1 counters on Sab-Sunen, because you're going to be doing that anyway with Bristly Bill and other spells, you put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. Then it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. That's super easy. 20 counters is easy. It may seem out of reach. If you're new to Magic, it may seem out of reach, but I promise you, 20 counters on this bad boy is easy. What you need to know is players are going to be crafty and they're going to wait till you get comfortable or close to winning to blow up or remove your Simic Ascendancy. They will do that. So if you're going for this as your win con, you better hold on to a counter spell. I promise you. You're going to be seeing Beast from Within, bounce, target permanent, destroy enchantment. It will happen. It will happen. So you will need a counter spell if you plan on winning with this. This is a Simic staple. Awesome. I got a soft spot for this card here. Herald of the Secret Streams for 3 and a blue. It's a 2/3 Merfolk Warrior. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. I just think that is just extremely powerful. There's so many creatures out there that can get +1/+1 counters, or you can put +1/+1 counters on, and they're just unblockable. Then it just reaches from a strategy of going wide too for 4 mana. It's just like it's just that enabler to just go through combat and win the game. I really think it's an auto clue in this. It's just like another redundant way of making your commander Sab-Sunen just evasive. And that's what you're going to need to do with this commander. All right, another one of my favorite cards from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, which is one of my favorite sets. Wave Goodbye. That artwork is pretty dope. Okay, for two, then 2 blue. Sorcery. It says return each creature without a +1/+1 counter on it to his owner's hand. You're going to be doing this anyway, putting +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. That is the theme of this commander. So why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you auto include this? Yes, this is a must add. Anyway, whatever the tide brings in, the shapers can wash away. That is the flavor text. I just love that flavor text too because you see the merfolk kind of far away saying goodbye to all the leviathans and pillars in the water. Adios. Moving on to the next card. Okay, so I found this card on EDH Rec for Sab-Sunen, and I think when players see it, they are discouraged by the first replacement effect of this. I'm telling you, when you play Commander, it is vital to be able to play free spells. They may come only at a certain time, but the opportunity for a free spell is how you can win the game. So Leyline Axe, Leyline themes here. For 4 mana artifact equipment, if this card is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. That's a free spell, y'all. Remember, you get to draw 7 cards. There's a high possibility you can draw this card, and it could be a free spell. Anyways, it says equip creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. Equip 3. For literally, if the opportunity arises, this is in your open hand. First turn, you put this on the battlefield. Okay, cool. Cast Sab-Sunen for 5. Yada yada yada. Game gets going. You tap 3 mana. You equip it. Your 6/6 has becomes a 7/7 with double strike and trample. How do you not want to do that? How do you not want to do that? The opportunity cost is great here. Moving on to my other cards you may have missed. Bounty of the Luxa for 2 blue and a green enchantment that says at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, remove all flood counters from Bounty of Luxa. If no counters removed this way, put a flood counter on it and draw a card. Otherwise, add a colorless blue and green. This card is pretty much the inspiration for Sab-Sunen. So I like to think of this card as very powerful because you can dictate when you want to add mana and when you want to draw a card. It literally is alternating. So if you count accordingly when you play this spell and how you play this spell, the turns that you need extra mana to add an equip cost or cast a I don't know maybe a power boost effect on your on commander, you just need to time it right. That's it. So on his first turn, you're adding on the first turn, which is the next turn you put it on, um, you're drawing a card. Then the following turn, you're adding mana. Just keep that in mind. Thank you for watching this episode of Breaking Brews. Sab-Sunen does remind me of the frog Binga Binga from Gullah Gullah Island. Just kind of weird, right? I do think they're doing this. But anyway, this is another simic commander that is going tall, known to trample, known to destroy your opponents. It is indestructible. It is very abusive. However, I do think they make it kind of fair because if it has an even number of counters on it, you are allowed to attack. If not, you can't attack. Just plan accordingly. But also put spells in your deck that can remove counters. I believe there is an instant spell for like blue or green that can remove all counters from something or a certain amount. So, thank you for watching Breaking Brews. Hit the notification button if I got anything of value for you. Peace.